everyone, welcome to Crank It Up Podcast, the YouTube home of Brigham Games. Today I want to talk about my 10 favorite battlefields in the core set. This is a weird video for me to make, as I often talk about my strict love them or lose them philosophy, and there are only 20 battlefields in the core set. I'm not supposed to have favorites, but I am human, and I get really excited when these battlefields come into play. Because of the battlefield deck construction rules, the ability to customize the deck allows you to play favorites as long as you maintain those important ratios. I want to emphasize that I do love every battlefield, otherwise they wouldn't exist, but these 10 battlefields have special circumstances that I find so interesting. The first battlefield is Sirens Cove, a cave. Because caves don't always do what you think, I really wanted Sirens Cove to exist in the core set. Sirens Cove will collapse within 8 turns, but not necessarily be captured. Unlike other caves, Sirens Cove is a trap. It can score even on its 8th turn, but if it doesn't, everything there gets removed. This type of battlefield is extremely rare because you can walk away with nothing, and its specifics lend to some very interesting personality-based behaviors. There are some players who love this battlefield, who view it as a 14 resistance 3VP battlefield, which would make it extremely efficient. And that's true to a large extent, but it can be hard to get 14 power in a single turn, which means playing there early to build up your presence. But if you have no movement, it means you are stuck there if you committed early, and I hope you can succeed. What's really interesting is that Sirens Cove has one of the worst winner wins percentages, where it almost seems like a bad idea to play there. But I think it's a numerical fluke, and I love that you have to be all in or all out, which leads to a high solo percentage. And don't be afraid to use that battlefield damage to your advantage. My 9th favorite battlefield is Dread Lagoon, the core set swamp. Dread Lagoon can put you back in the game, or put the game away. But if you want to win there, it's going to cost you. Morale is something that either the player or a class relies on, and some players may not like playing loose and free with it, especially when the runner-up is only 1 point. But it's a great battlefield for staging engine cards, even though constructs also trigger the morale loss. Stealing Dread Lagoon is ironically the biggest morale loss, because a one-turn big play can mean that all of your effort and morale loss amounted to very little. This battlefield doesn't have a very high winner rate, so it's certainly not dominant, which is really important to a swamp. I love that it could effectively be a solo battlefield because your rival decides it's not worth it to even compete there, which means your engine is out all game until you are ready to end it. My 8th battlefield is Parados River, a 1-point bridge. It's crazy how much attention this 1-point battlefield gets. Points are points, and you never want to give them away, but you have to be really careful because the winner decides where everything goes. If I feel that the battlefield is lost, I may stay off of it so that I don't let someone else use my units to double score. The special retreat ability leads to some absolutely fascinating interactions. This is a great Tears of Undine battlefield, as that extra power can change the winner, changing the destiny. It can also add power for a double score, whether it's on the bridge itself or where the bridge is sending everyone. It has a very high resistance for a bridge to allow for significant back and forth, but the more players invest in it, the higher the chance of the double score, which can really break up your rival's plans. I wish I tracked how often Parados River culminated in a double score, but that's the type of specific data that is hard to collect and program. However, I will say that I really enjoy when I guess wrong about where my rival is sending everyone, because the adjacency system really matters here. Number 7 is Notoa. Notoa has often been the battlefield that comes out at the perfect time, and sometimes it doesn't even last a turn. In Erudia, spreading out is really important, but Notoa puts movement into the core set battlefields, allowing you to converge for surprise plays. When I have a tough loss and Notoa comes out, it's not hard to start my next turn with 3 units there, and though the resistance is fairly normal for a city, because of the movement, 23 comes rather quickly. So many acolytes love this battlefield, whether it's Vasco for a free double movement followed by Jock, Lamri and Sleipnir are easily triggered, Gregor is an easy finisher there, but you have to time your movement carefully, because if you cannot capture after a movement swarm, your rival probably can, and you'd be significantly overpaying. Number 6 is Sonoa, the deployment battlefield. For the longest time, this battlefield had a 100% capture rate. You basically needed the battlefield to come out right at the end to get it to not score. And what's not to love? This battlefield gives you extra plays with your support tactic, and for some classes, this is one of the only ways to get more units out. Not only that, but the battlefield is mostly self-balancing, as the more you use it, the closer it is to scoring, so it carries real risk. For some classes, deploying can be risky if you deploy the wrong unit at the wrong time, particularly fighters, but the ability to either speed up this battlefield or simultaneously spread out is too good to pass up. This is one of my favorite cavalry battlefields because they can use it to farm their units, moving them off immediately after. Number 5 is Peders Path, a Plains. With Plains, you often need to incentivize a reason to play there because the objective can be a deterrent. While this plays out differently on each Plains, the chance to get any item you want is extremely powerful. It's a pretty severe cost in terms of morale, and you can't do it a lot, but if you need that Fallachian egg or the right ingredient for water on acid, having a unit there for this purpose is awesome. This is one of my favorite Vasco battlefields because he could use the command and then leave later that turn. You can grab the tribal horn, forcing your rival to play there, and immediately start killing them for the objective. This is a great battlefield to combo with Scavenger Peak for a 1-2 punch, to shuffle the item in and immediately grab it. Does that mean Scavenger's Peak is on the list? Only time will tell. Number 4 is Lamina Lake, the battlefield with no ability, and it only gives you 2 points. And yet, this battlefield has scored in 93% of games because you cannot leave it alone. I love bridges, and I love the fact that this battlefield works without an ability because you need to decide how much the competition is worth it to you. If you leave it alone, your rival gets 2 VP, but you walk away with nothing if you lose there. The math here is very intentional, as every power matters. If you add a 2-powered recruit, a 3-powered unit can overtake you, but if you add a 3, and I respond with a 4, that's 7 of 16, and it's not hard to add 9 power, since 3 power is a baseline for each play. This all amounts to a very tense battlefield you cannot overlook, but fortunately, it isn't dominant for scoring. Number 3 is Haradon. And who doesn't love Haradon? This battlefield has one of the bottom 3 lowest solo percentages because you want to have a unit there. Every class benefits from knowing what is in their deck and what's coming, but what really stands out to me is how many times Haradon has saved me with the deplete tactic. There have been plenty of times where I buried the first card to deplete to draw the second because that perfect card can overcome the loss of a tactic. There have been times where I've hunted for a unit because the perfect unit was the third card and I'd have no way of getting to it otherwise. But what's even better about Haradon is everyone's, including mine, surprising ability to use it at the wrong time. Sometimes you use it and inadvertently shuffle, thus undoing the deck foresight, and to me, that means it is an ability you use every turn, but not necessarily the start of every turn. It provides great strategic value, and in hindsight, I wonder if it should have been a Plains, but I love the way it is. Number 2 is Gordovan, a cemetery that can revive your units at the cost of precious morale. This battlefield is a big reason why players save their morale late in the game because it can be costly, but it is absolutely worth it. It only affects the warfare tactic, so it cannot easily be abused unless you are skeletons, but come on, it's a cemetery. While every deck in Erudia is built to last, there is something very nice about the sudden increase in options. It also makes late-game morale loss very painful, as there have been times my rival or I had a last-minute defeat that keeps a leader in the discard. This battlefield really ties the morale system together and gives a lasting impact to defeats. It's really fun when you kill someone and they lose a morale, and then they revive them at Gordovan spending morale, and then you kill them again. This would be my number 1 if I absolutely did not adore the last one, Erudia. The stories I can tell you about this battlefield, I absolutely love it. Erudia is not meant to only provide last-minute intrigue, but force each player to pay attention to both players' discards. There is a random but observable event that will occur that can shift the battlefield or give you a nice bonus. It really flips the script on attack-based units because commands and unleashes, as great as they are, they don't matter here. Imagine getting a surprise Fina for a free construct, or an unexpected card draw and strength with a page, which can trigger Maxim. Or, if you are already losing and Garamond gets revived, of course, other classes benefit significantly more, like an unexpected gladiator. One time, I was 1 damage short of pulling off a double score that would let me win the game, and I drew off a brute, which set off a chain reaction of fighter cards that stole the game. And because the discards are public knowledge, this was a known possible outcome. In fact, it was my turn, and I was banking on that as I felt it was the only way to win, and Erudia rolled in my favor. But I've also had a surprise Attila that nukes all my units. What's really fun is the fact that it is mandatory. I was recently playing a game with a B expansion class, and this battlefield was out, and I'm looking at my own discard, and I really did not want a certain unit of mine to come out, and it did, and though it punished me, it shows you that Erudia giveth and taketh away. The chance for something epic is always there, like a certain cleric play that I can recall. This battlefield is never safe unless you solo it, and it's worth noting that you need to have presence on the battlefield at the time your play resolves. For example, If you are the active player and your unit defeats the only rival unit there, they won't get a replacement. But I've also been the inactive player, survived the battlefield ambush, then had my originally lone unit die, with the replacement being what got me presents for points. This battlefield can play out in so many ways, so if you pay attention to the discard, you may be able to use it to your advantage or avoid a slaughter. This is nothing against the other battlefields, but these 10 really stand out, and if the abysses from the A expansion were eligible for the list, I'd tell you stories about them too. What are your favorite battlefields that you've played? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, be sure to like and subscribe. Let's shut it down.